Hello, my friend. It's Crypto Lunatic, the channel for crypto newbies. And today I'm going to explain Bitcoin, the investment case, the fors against for beginners. For absolute beginners, people that haven't heard of it. And the reason that I'm doing this is because so many of my friends start asking me questions about Bitcoin. And it is very, very clear that there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, mad information, false information. There's a lot of information out there, folks. So I'm just going to give you some stats. I'm going to give you some stats today, and I'm going to explain why people that are in Bitcoin love Bitcoin. And you can make your own mind up, and I encourage you to do your own research and not believe a word I'm saying. So join me on a little journey. So here, this in one graph will tell you everything that you need to really know. Bitcoin versus traditional assets from between 2010 and 2023. Now, before I even tell you this stat, in 2023, Bitcoin peaked at $66,000 and finished the year at 42,000. So bear that in mind. It's well over 100,000 now. So this is old news. But nonetheless, let's use this as a stat. So let's look. Real estate average annual return 13.49%, gold 5.14%, S&P 500 15.74%, and Bitcoin 1,576%. Well, there you go, my friends. I could always drop the mic and walk away now. This is why Bitcoin maxis are Bitcoin maxis. So there you go. Bitcoin's had exceptional growth. Here's a chart just to bring it alive again. So within the Fortune 500, there are seven companies that absolutely prop it up, called the Magnificent Sevens. The Magnificent Seven, the top seven companies of the Fortune 500. And even if you just take them alone, they're still being outperformed by Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum, which is the second biggest digital asset by market cap, is still significantly up on everything else except the Magnificent Seven. But Bitcoin outperforms everything. And not only that, it's important to know that Bitcoin is a standalone currency in a digital market. It is unlike any other digital currency. It is a commodity and not a security, which is probably another video for another day. But it's standalone, which means that governments can't touch it. And governments can't touch it because they don't have any company behind it. No one knows who the mysterious Satoshi is. So if anyone's got to complain about Bitcoin, they don't know who to take to court because he's a bit like Kaiser Soze for all you usual suspects fans. They don't know he existed or she existed or some mysterious entity existed. No one knows. So let's go to ChatGPT and get you some stats. How many Bitcoins have been mined and bought this year? So here you go. Simple stats, my friend. The daily mining rate for Bitcoin is 450 Bitcoins a day, which means that as of late May 2025, 82,500 Bitcoins have been mined. Bitcoins purchased in 2025. And look at this. Just a single company, MicroStrategy, has acquired 31,270 of those Bitcoins, an average price of $101,000. Additional purchases since February, Strategy has spent approximately 10.11 billion to acquire 107,980 Bitcoins. So look at that. One company, just one company, has bought more than the supply. Just was one company. So mined approximately 82,500, purchased 107,980, excluding MicroStrategies. So from a simple supply and demand perspective, them's the stats, my friends. Them's the stats. So I've asked the investment case to DeepSeek, and I've asked them to explain it to a child because a lot of the language in crypto can be absolutely mystifying. So asking for a child-friendly version is often the way to go without getting all the gobbledygook that you can get. So here is the case, the investment case. So we talked about limited supply. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins. They can't print any more, which means that unlike every other currency on the planet, it cannot be manipulated. The reason that our current economy is in such a state and why everything's so expensive is because governments keep printing money. And people that know we're living in a global Ponzi scheme where we owe effectively roughly about 3 times more in interest than we earn in gross domestic product globally. Now, that means that at some point the bubble will burst and people will wake up to it. And this is what some people call the Great Reset. But I could be considered a conspiracy theorist for talking about things like that, the collapse of the global economy. This is a hedge against it because they cannot print Bitcoins. So there's no boss in charge. Now that's a sort of for and against. It means that governments can't take them to court. They can't demand access to your wallets. They can't seize your funds, which is another thing that the Bitcoin maxis like. But it's also, if you're looking for customer service, you ain't going to find it with the Bitcoin because no one knows who's behind it. Now, people that custody Bitcoin, that's a different conversation. And who you can trust to custody your Bitcoin, well, that's also another conversation for another day. So it can grow in value over time, as we've already seen, and protection against inflation. Not only that, with Bitcoin, you can stake it and earn interest, more so than any bank account that you'll find. And not only that, you can borrow against your Bitcoin, which means you can free up cash whilst holding on to your asset. So the big rewards, you could make a lot of money. Well, we've already seen that. It works everywhere. And no one can freeze it. So governments can't manipulate it. Banks can't manipulate it. The risks, well, the price could go up or down. Hackers and scams is a very real risk. There's a lot of ways, if you self-custody, that you can get hacked or scammed if you don't know what you're doing. So good security practices around Bitcoin, especially if you're self-custodying, is essential. Absolutely essential. Otherwise, you may want to invest in exchange traded funds if you want some more security of not having to hold on to it yourself. And what exchanges can you trust? Well, the big FTX scandal last year has got people worried about worried what could happen. So big scams are out there. People that hold your Bitcoin, they could potentially embezzle it. So trust is a big issue in the crypto space, for example, but you can self-custody, which is another thing. You can be your own bank, but you would need to have advanced security measures in place to do that. So here's the final thing I want to show you. This is exchange traded funds. This is the smart money. This is the smart money, the big boys. Look, as we go up here, we see we've got iShares, Fidelity, Grayscale, ARK, more Grayscale, all of the big funds. And this is the smart money. And what you'll notice is, look, here's the price of Bitcoin. When big money goes in, the price tends to go up. When big money sells, it tends to go down. Green and red correlation all the way through this chart. And look where we're at now. And bear in mind the supply and demand. Look at this. This is just May alone. This is just from May alone. When we look at some of these, prices, look, we see daily inflows of over 100 million every day going in by the big guys. 667 million in a single day there on the 19th of May. Look at it flooding in. 934 billion on the 22nd of May. Money is flooding in to Bitcoin right now from the big boys, from the seasoned investors, from the big players. And not only that, but BlackRock have now got an exchange traded fund as well. And they are buying up Bitcoin like it's going out of fashion. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I think the Bitcoin maxis probably think it's a bad thing that BlackRock's involved, but professional investors would probably say that if BlackRock's getting involved, then maybe we should be taking it seriously. And that, my friends, is Bitcoin for beginners. And if you'd like more of my little videos explaining very simply about the crypto space, then please do subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like another one of my videos, you will find that just there.